Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and this is the player ratings video for the 3-1 defeat to Manchester United in the FA Cup third round. And I say that result through gritted teeth because I honestly do believe that wasn't a fair reflection of the game at all. That scoreline, I think, with a bit more luck, we probably could have forced a replay out of that at the very least. And but there's even an argument to say that if that second goal in the second half, which was disallowed for offside, had counted, that we had them shaken and we might even have gone on and got a win. I know there were a lot of people disagreeing with a lot of what I say in this video, to be honest, because I'm daring to have a bit of positivity about the situation at the moment after that result. But then at the same time, I know that going into this match, it wasn't really that much of a fair reflection, I don't think, on the situation. But we all kind of knew that going in. I think it was why a lot of us were doubting what the likes of Paul Joyce was saying, and that the United game was going to decide Lampard's fate. A cup result, it is almost in the situation we're in, a bit of a free hit, because obviously the focus has got to be on staying in the league, and running the FA Cup is actually almost a distraction towards that goal. So, I mean, this is almost the best situation we could have got out of it, really. A positive result, a positive performance, even. Not the result we wanted, but a positive performance that shows for me that the players are still playing for Lampard, and that's one of the key things for me. I know a lot of people have been saying recently, "Oh, Lampard's record's worse than Benitez's was during his time at the club. Why were so many people jumping on the back of Benitez compared to Lampard?" And the simple answer for me is that Benitez had clearly lost a lot of the players very early on into his reign, as well as the entire fan base. Um, whether in hindsight, some people are saying maybe that wasn't the best thing compared to how people are with Lampard now, then it's almost irrelevant. The point is, as well, Benitez forcing out the likes of Digne and James Rodriguez. Obviously, we don't know the full thing going on behind the scenes, but particularly with Digne, it just seemed that the two had a fallen out, and Digne was sold during Benitez's reign, and just a few weeks later, Benitez was sacked, which seemed a crazy decision at the time, and I just hinted the whole chaos behind the board thing, really, and obviously we won't get too much into that today, but that for me is where I'm at, and the fact the players are still playing for Lampard, I think, is a bigger thing than people are maybe giving it credit. And I don't know how anyone can look at that performance against Manchester United and say that that's not the case. Um, and yeah, I mean, getting straight into that, that's why a lot of these player rates are probably going to be higher than people are maybe expecting. I mean, straight into it. Pickford gets a six, and the entire central defensive line, I think, gets a six as well. Pickford was forced into a few good saves. Didn't have a ton to do. United didn't batter us as much as maybe people expected. We, again, similarly to City, we reduced them to quite a few chances, and I'd actually had a lot more on the ball than I was expecting us to have as well. Obviously, City, we knew were going to dominate possession and work on trying to carve us open, which of course they struggled. Whereas United were much more hitting us on the break, and we, in a way, struggled to deal with that a little more than City's intricate passing, trying to pass through us that they were trying. But I still thought we defended very well, and I think Godfrey in particular was very effective with that. Of course, his pace and physicality was able to keep up with the likes of Rashford, Martial, or Anthony, whoever it was, trying to burst through. And I think he had another good game, and I think he shows he works really well in this system. Having two experienced heads in Cody and Tarkowski next to him just allows him to, do his own thing a bit more, and either attack the ball or drop deep and cover or whatever it was, and with his physical attributes, he's able to do that quite well. And similarly, Cody, obviously, people are going to jump on his back about the own goal, which I sympathise with him quite a bit. Watching it back, I was at the game, and obviously I was far away from. I was at the other end of the pitch from where the goal happened, but it wasn't. too clear from where we were sat just how much of it was his fault. But watching the replays back, I think he's just unlucky. I think after Coleman gets ragged by Rashford, I think it's quite I think Cody's Cody has quite a bit to do, and yeah, he just kind of has to stick his foot in. Really, I sympathise with him quite a bit with it, to be honest. And obviously, it's not the nicest goal he scored for us, but he did get a goal as well. We've got to take that into account. A freak goal all round, of course, but we'll take whatever we can get at this point. But I'm also really impressed with his comments after the match as well. Always speaks really well, Conor Cody. Great professional, great attitude to have. I think that was quite a large portion of why he was in the England squad, despite not getting a single minute. Um, just a really good attitude, and I think his importance on the pitch is missed by quite a lot. And I thought he had a solid game, other than the own goal and that. So I think he gets a 6 for me. And similarly, Tarkowski, a bit of a quieter game than usual. He's often the one throwing himself about a bit more, but just had a solid game really, and was always composed on the ball. Obviously, there was a lot of like I say, with us having a lot more possession, there was a lot more of the passing it around the back and that. And most of the time, his composure on the ball was very good. So, like I say, whole of the central defence gets a 6 for me, as well as Pickford. Coleman is similar; he gets a 6. Again, a lot of people were thinking he should be getting lower because of obviously Rashford turning him inside out for the second goal, which Coleman 5 years ago probably deals with that a lot better, admittedly, but that's the situation we're at the moment with Patterson being injured. Coleman is our starting right back again for the foreseeable, and other than that, again, I thought he had a really good game, putting himself about, working hard, and he did really well for that disallowed goal that was turned in by Calvert-Lewin. A really good pass to Gray that he spots. Obviously, Gray marginally offside, but it's a really frustrating one, because obviously it is offside. You look at the replay, you can't have any arguments about it. It is clearly offside, but wasn't spotted by any of the United players so. It's just one of those really unfortunate ones that 5 years ago we would have got on away with, but that's football, and it is just bad luck at the end of the day. And I actually thought that, other than of course the second goal, I actually thought he did really well keeping Rashford quiet for the rest of the game. So yeah, fair dues to Coleman. And then Mykolenko, he's been getting a lot of stick in the last 24 hours. I'm not entirely sure why he seems to be the target. I have given him a 5, but just because it just didn't really work in the system we have. I completely get the arguments people are saying about him not really working at a 5 back because of him being limited attacking wise, and obviously that type of system is reliant on wing backs getting forward and being able to get back. Whereas Mykolenko's a lot more hesitant to go forward, a lot more cautious, and much better on the defensive side of things. So I think the criticism is a little unjustified, but I can understand why people are saying doesn't really work in the system. But that being said, I don't think he had a particularly bad game against United. As I say, he just wasn't quite effective. And funnily enough, it was actually Dwight McNeil who came on and actually did all right in that position. Is that maybe something to consider? Obviously, we haven't seen much of Vinagre in that position, but based on his experience with Wolves, he does seem a much more natural left wing back than Mykolenko is. So it's food for thought, I think. And I think this team could do with a switch up or two, perhaps, and maybe a McNeil or Vinagre in that left wing back position if we persist with five at the back is perhaps the answer. It's definitely something to be considered. Just a gate, I'm not sure about this one. I've given him a 5 as well. And I'm wondering if I'm actually being a little too harsh on this. He was giving the ball away a lot, especially in the first half. The whole team were, to be fair, we really grew into it. I don't think we were ourselves expecting to have as much as the ball as we did, and I think as a result we were quite sloppy in possession in the first half. But we really grew into that into the second, and I think actually Gay was maybe a bit underrated. Maybe it flew under the radar a little bit how well he actually played. Possibly, I'm not sure. I've given him a 5 because, like I say, he was giving the ball away a lot, but you could tell he was, really working hard as he always does, putting himself about. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one. Like I say, leave your thoughts in the comments, give me your ratings and what you thought of individual player performances. Which ones do you think I got right and wrong, etc. I think a unified one we could all probably agree on is Onana was our best player. I think I think that's almost certain. He was really, like I say, putting himself about a lot, won a lot of really good tackles. Obviously, got on the Fernandez's skin somehow. I don't know what was up with that, but Fernandez seemed to want to kick him every opportunity he got, and you know, in another game, I think he maybe could have been sent off as well. If roles are reversed, I'm just saying, I think there's a chance that Fernandez maybe sees red for some of the challenges that he was putting in. But yeah, like I say, Anana worked so hard, really good tackles, and really, I think really led the team, particularly after Iwobi's injury. Obviously we'll get into him into a second. But yeah, really showed leadership attributes as well, which we've seen glimpses of already at such a young age. It's just astonishing, really. But and yeah, and did really well for the goal as well. It's a really good pass. I don't think a lot of our even fans had spotted that as the right thing to do. I know most of the end I was in was calling for him to shoot, but really good slotted pass into Morpay, which ultimately makes the goal, I think. So, and yeah, he was much better on the ball than usual as well. Obviously, again, similarly in the first after Gay, giving it away a couple of times, but really got better with that and was actually ended up being one of our key men going forward. So yeah, really good performance from Amadou Onana. I think it was clear how much we missed him against Brighton, and obviously he's also had his critics recently, but definitely one of our better midfielders, and he's definitely going to have to step up now in the absence of our next man, Alex Iwobi, who obviously got injured early in the second half. Really, just like I said, just such rotten luck. And he's going to be a massive miss. Obviously, at the time of recording, we're still not entirely sure on a return date for him. Lampard said after the game it's perhaps not as bad as first feared. Ankle ligament injury, it's looking like. I'm hoping at the very least just around 6 weeks, maybe. Um, even that's like not ideal, but it's better than that first thought. And based on some of the reactions, you're thinking his season might be over. So fingers crossed it's not as bad as we hope. But yeah, first off, he was really good again, really direct, really composed on the ball. And I think we're going to miss that positivity as well. We don't have many players that are so comfortable on the ball and comfortable going forwards, and like I say, much more direct. Um, and yeah, he's going to be a miss. I'll give him a 6 because it's quite hard to judge a player based on just one half, but based on the half of football, I think he deserves a 6. And similarly, Damari Gray also gets a 6. And as I touched on there, probably the only player now in our squad I'd really trust on the ball to just have a run, have a go. Probably the best dribbler left in our squad now, and I actually thought he's starting to show up a little bit more now. I was critical of him against Brighton, but obviously had a really good game against City and another really good game in this one. And I think it's indicative for a lot of the players now that this is what it's going to have to be like again. We saw it at the end of last season, in the run-in when we were still battling relegation last season, that everyone just really has to dig in and just work their bollocks off now for the rest of the season if we're going to stay up. And I think Gray has taken it on what better than perhaps I've given him, and a lot of other people have been giving him credit for over the last few weeks. But and yeah, it's just about that end product really. Like his dribbling causes all sorts of defensive problems. United were struggling to deal with him for a lot of the game. Um, and yeah, it's just all about that end product really. Obviously, he gets the cross in for Calvert-Lewin's disallowed goal, but some of the shooting was askew. Sometimes still makes the wrong decisions. So if you can just work on that, and if the more chances he gets, the more we'll get out of it. So just needs to keep doing what he's doing, keep working hard, and he could very well be vital for us um, in the final run. And then Neil Maupay, I'm going to give him a 5. I'm going to be a little more sympathetic than a lot of people are. I think, yeah, he started the game really badly. Obviously, like I touched on before, it was his shot that led to our goal. But other than that, he didn't have much impact, and he was putting himself out a bit more towards the end before getting taken off Calvert-Lewin, of course. But before that, just wasn't chasing as much as he should have been. And based on the fact he's no aerial threat, I think he needs to be making up for that more by chasing loose balls more than the likes of Calvert-Lewin or Sims would. Um, but I don't know if it's just laziness or just lack of effort or what, but it's just not coming off for him at the moment. And I'd be honest, I'd be starting Sims over him now. To be honest, I have no idea how ready Sims is for this level of football, but I just think he gives us more than Maupay. He's much more of that physical threat, like I say, and I think he's just have a bit more of a point to prove than Maupay seems to, and just doesn't seem to be that interested really. But yeah, obviously that's the starting lineup. We never usually go into subs, but I do have to give a special mention to Abdoulaye Doucouré, who again I've been very critical of in recent weeks, but we came on for Iwobi early in the second half and actually really put a shift in. Um, the critics will say maybe he's trying to put himself in the shop window or whatever, but he had a very good game, really putting himself about and was actually a very good attacking outlet. So I imagine now if there were any like deals in the pipeline, they're probably going to be halted now with Iwobi like potentially out for the foreseeable, but hopefully Doucouré can continue that level of performance and who knows, he could end up being somewhat of an unlikely hero. Like I say, this is probably a lot more upbeat and positive than a lot of people watching this are feeling themselves. But I think for me, sticking with Lampard is the most viable option at the moment, just because there isn't too much. I don't know who replaced him is the issue, and it's also a case of money. He's got a massive coaching staff with him as well, which would they'd also all need to be paid off, have their contracts terminated, etc. And it may very well just be that we don't have the money to do that and get in the necessary players we need to give us a chance of staying up. And if it's a choice between that, we're all choosing players, surely. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs, of course. I might be completely off the mark with that, but the fact of the matter is, if all the reports seem to say that we're just in for loan players at the moment, which suggests to me there is not a lot of money that we are able to spend at the moment, and we can't just keep paying off managers and going on around in this cycle. And if there was a really viable option out there that I truly believe keeps us up, gets more out of the players than Lampard is at the moment, and can build on this in the summer going into next season as well, which we also have to consider. Then yeah, I'd probably be a lot more up for getting rid and changing up. But the fact is that manager isn't out there. Sean Dyche isn't the answer for me. And there aren't any other viable names out there. I really don't think there are. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Obviously, it's not ideal. Obviously, the next two matches, Southampton and West Ham, are like crucial. Southampton in particular, we really need to get a win over them while their confidence is also on the ground at Goodison as well. The whole ground needs to get behind the team. Um, and similarly, West Ham as well, of course, not in the best vein of form. Obviously, that's away, but so it's going to be more difficult to get a result there. But I honestly believe if the players put in the effort that they did last night, and as I said, I do genuinely believe the entirety of them are still playing for Lampard, so it's not out of the question. If we put in that level of effort now to the end of the season, then maybe, and with a couple of more additions, we should have enough to stay up again this season. That's basically where I'm at the moment. I'm sure after a few more games, my opinion could be completely changed, but who knows? Yeah, like I say before, comment giving your thoughts about the player ratings, about whether you'd be keeping Lampard, who you'd be getting in if you were to sack him, etc. Which players you'd be looking at to help bolster the squad. Realistic options, of course. And yeah, please leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content. And we will see you in the next video. Cheers.